What's up, y'all? This is Pal Nerd. We are back to talk about the green cards in Palworld TCG or OCG, if you prefer to call it by the official card game. And yeah, let's just get into it. We are covering every color here, and hopefully talking about what works best, what are the best cards, what are cards that may not work quite well just yet. So let's start off with probably what's maybe the mascot of this green deck. Liline, Blessing of the Goddess. So on deploy, you get 3 ingredients, which I think it's like, is that a fruit? I think it's a fruit. And you can consume all 3, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1, 6 or less PAL from among them, and deploy it, which is very, very strong. I think this is one of the decks that I played against recently that was a little bit more complicated to beat. They were spamming a lot. I believe this one with the purple deck is it's a pretty hard deck to beat. So very strong card, and I think recently there was a reveal of an alternate artwork for this that was very, very cool. So yeah, definitely a staple in this green deck. It is a bit of a pricier card, so it is a turn 4 and later kind of play here, but pretty strong, decent power. It's not great, but it does have 3 strikes. So yeah, and it is a lucky pal. I think it's a staple out of 4 in this deck. Then we got Dig Twice, Seismic Drillback. So continuous effect. If you have 10 or more souls, this card gets 1,000 power, which is pretty nuts, and an additional strike. You can consume 2, and until the end of this turn, this card gets 500 power and this extra skill, which the skill is called Breakthrough. When the opposing combat PAL is put into the graveyard during this card's attack, the opposing player is also dealt damage. So that's pretty nuts. Not sure. I mean, for a lucky card, it is fairly strong. I do think that there are better options in the deck since it is a lucky PAL, and you're limited to those. It's very strong, but yeah, I'm not sure if personally I would max out on this card, or even I don't know. I don't even know if I would run it personally. Petalia, Sweet Blessings. On deploy, you gain 1 life. You choose 2 souls and stand them, which is very cool, essentially making it a 4-drop in a way. Next we have Rushore, Reckless Destruction. When this card attacks a structure, this card gets 800 damage until the end of the turn. So essentially you can do a lot of damage to a structure. Some structures are about 1,000, so if it is 8,000 durability structure, you can destroy that structure pretty quickly with just a simple little 2-drop guy. Elizabeth, Queen of the Flower Garden. This card gets 300 power for each of your main name bee guard pals. So if you have a lot of those smaller bees, she can get pretty beefy there. She is a lucky pal at a 5-drop, which isn't too bad. You consume 1 ingredient, look at the top card of your deck, and if that name is bee guard pal, you may play it with its cost reduced by 2. It does not become 0 or less from that ability. Not sure if it's great. You do have to run the bee guards, and like I said, I've said in the previous color videos, sometimes these circumstantial or situational effects, they're not great for consistency. If you're trying to be a little bit more competitive, they are fun for sure if you're playing more casually, or just you're doing some stuff for fun, because when they do go off, they're very strong. Very strong effects when they do meet those requirements, but again, those are situational scenarios where if you want to be more competitive, you want it to be a little bit better consistent and kind of flow a little bit better. So in that situation, I don't know if I would play this personally. Next we have War Sect, Iron Fortress. This is hands down one of my favorite pals. He is so cool, and he is a pretty beefy guy. You got 8 drop, 1500 power, 3 strike. His effect is Taunt. Your opponent cannot target other targets with if a card with Taunt can be targeted for an attack. If you play Lorcana, essentially he's like a blocker or defender. I don't remember the term. Essentially, if your opponent is attacking you and this guy is on the field, he must be attacked first, which makes him an Iron Fortress. It makes him a really beefy guy to have on your field. I would definitely play 2 or 3 of these guys. Maybe I'm biased because I think he's so cool, but no, I think if you're trying to, make sure that your opponent is not getting any attacks through, this is a problem that they have to deal with before pushing through any further. So Pretty cool guy. Next we have Valet, Bewitching Blossom. There's a 8-drop Lucky Pal. You can discard 1 card from hand. If you assigned this card this turn, you stand this card. So if you have to essentially tap or rest a pal to assign them, but if you do, it's essentially a free assigner for one of your structures, which is pretty cool. After obviously discarding a card from hand. Additionally, it is very strong, and it does have strike 3, so that's very cool. This is very, very, very useful. I can definitely see people wanting to max out on this card, maybe play 2 or 3 of these. I think it really depends on your playstyle that you're going for, or the kind of deck that you're playing, essentially. But this is a very strong card. Next, we have a vanilla 3-drop lift monk, Promising Newbie, 500 power, strike 1. Is pretty decent for a 3-drop. It just kind of sucks that it's a vanilla, but it is pretty cool. It is a good card. Personally, not sure if I would play it, but if you have the room for it, if you need this, like I said, if you're playing a lot of structures, or you need some of the smaller guys for your structures, this is a solid pick. Mud, Mellow Bounty. On deploy, you get 2 ingredients. When this card is assigned to a farming structure, increase your soul by 1 card in the rest state. So that's kind of cool. It gives you souls a little bit faster. He has a 4-drop, 500, strike 2. The strike 2 is nice. It's a turn 2, turn 3 kind of card. Yeah, it's pretty solid, especially if you need more cards to get more materials quicker. This is definitely a good choice. Then we have Gumo's Curious Sprout. On deploy, this card gets 300 power and the skill, which is Assault. This card can attack pals in the stand state. So that's not bad. On its first turn, it gets 900 power and 2 strike, and it is a fairly cheap card. So if you're going for a little bit more aggressive play, yeah, this is definitely a decent way to go about it. Next, we have another Digtoise, but this one is not lucky, and it is a little bit of a smaller cost. So once per turn, you consume 2 ingredients. This card gets 500 attack, putting them at 1300 power, and the skill, which is Breakthrough, similar to the other Digtoise. When the opposing combat pal is put into the graveyard, so when you defeat an opponent's pal during this card's attack, the opposing player is also dealt damage. So not bad. You're still kind of getting some attack through. Think of it kind of like Trample in Magic the Gathering. Next, we have Tanzi, Cheerful Worker. He has Sirius 400, and in my previous color videos, I've talked about how this is pretty solid. I would definitely max out on these, especially if you're playing structures. As a 2-drop structure worker, these are really nice early game, mid game, and even mid to late game. These guys are very good for pushing that extra 400 power if you need to get over an opponent's bigger pals. Here we have B-Guard. So if you're playing that Elizabeth kind of play style, this card is fairly cheap to drop. 3 souls, 400 power, 1 strike. So I read this effect a couple of times because I wasn't really sure what I'm reading. You may put any number of cards with the same card name as this card into your deck. I'm assuming that means if they are in play, you can put them back into the deck. Essentially, maybe so that they can get off this effect here, but yeah, I'm not too sure on that one. Maybe if anybody knows in the comments, just comment down below how this exactly works. I'm a little confused as to how it's a word. It might be my Yu-Gi-Oh brain or my Magic the Gathering brain, because I'm trying to dissect exactly how it's worded, and maybe I'm confusing myself here, but. Other than that, on deploy, it does get an extra ingredient, and if you have a farming structure on play, this card gets 500 until the end of the turn. So essentially, on its first turn, if you already have a structure out, it is a pretty cheap drop of 900 power guy with 1 strike. So it's pretty solid. We have Wumpo Botan, Tropical Sentinel. So this is one of the nullify attack guys. He is a pretty beefy guy, 7-drop, 1200 power, and 3 strike. Not too bad. If you're, especially, I do think that playing at least 4 total in the deck of nullify attack cards are pretty essential. So I don't know if you would max out on this guy. I'm not sure if we have any other nullify attackers. Oh yeah, we do. So yeah, I'd maybe play 2 and 2 of those nullify attack kind of guys. Next we have Mosanda Guard Captain. He is a vanilla, no effect here. 5 drop, 900 power, and 2 strike. It's pretty solid. We actually have 2 vanillas. Yeah, with those vanillas, I'm not 100% sure yet if I would play those over some of these other things that kind of help the game state a little bit more. You know, if you're gonna play a vanilla, I would probably rather play the Lift Monk, since it is only 1 extra soul for a little bit more power. But yeah, it really just depends on your builds here. These two are okay, but they're not great. Next we have Floppy Snack Lover. On deploy, you get 2 ingredients. So see, I would much rather play this over, you know, a Gumos, or even over the actually, you know, and I just said I would play the Lift Monk, but I would definitely play this over the Lift Monk. It has only 100 less power, but you at least get 2 ingredients on deploy. So, because these guys, the power is not that important early on, especially if you're trying to set up for one of your bigger pals. So, definitely would max out on this guy over any of these other smaller ones. It's a good structure worker at 3 drop, and like I said, you get the ingredients. Next we have Dino Sum Radiant Fragrance. Yeah, this is a 4 drop. Like I said earlier, it's the nullify attack guy. You know, I would actually probably play maybe 2 and 2 of these guys. But you know, this one being such a smaller cost, but it does have significantly less power. It does have 2 strike. Yeah, I don't know. I would definitely need some testing between those two and see how which ones I would prefer to play. Maybe even like 2 and 3, 3 and 2. 3 and 3. It really depends on your play style and, you know, how you want to structure the deck. We have Eikthyr Terra, which is it's a hard name to pronounce. That is a 6 drop soul, 800 power, 2 strike. It does have taunt, so similar to the Warsect, you do have to attack this first if you want to attack any of your other opponent's pals. You can consume 2 and it gets an extra 500 power. It's not bad. It's pretty solid. Yeah, I think I would maybe play a couple of these if there's the room. Next we have the two last pals here, and they're both lucky pals. Let's look at Bron Cherry first, and this one has taunt just like the other guys. I would probably play this over the deer for sure. It does take up your lucky pal spots, but it does have 1500 power and 3 strike, which is pretty nice. And then we have the Mammorest, Roar of the Wilds. When this card is put into the graveyard, you get 3 ingredients. This is an 8 drop that is 2000 power and 4 strike. That is one beefy dude. I would probably personally maybe max out on these for as far as taking off some of those lucky pal spots. Making a big push in the late game with 2000 power and 4 strike is pretty nice. Alright, that is all the pals. Let's look at the structures. First we have Breeding Farm. You can consume 2 ingredients, reveal the top card of your deck, add it to your hand if it is an 8 or less pal, otherwise put it into the graveyard. So you're essentially consuming 2 ingredients to basically draw a card, since the likelihood of hitting an 8 cost pal or higher is very unlikely. And then the next effect here, consume 2 ingredients, assign 2 pals. You choose 1 8 or less pal from your hand and deploy it. So if you have some of the smaller guys already out on the field, you want to bring out a bigger guy, you can essentially deploy it by just tapping some of those small guys. Cola Vending Machine. You can consume X ingredients, assign 1 pal, choose 1 soul and stand it, then choose up to 3 times the number of X of souls and stand them. So you're kind of, I guess, using your souls a little bit more resourcefully there. So far with these 2 structures, I'm not 100% sure if I would play them at a max number there. I would maybe play that Cola Vending Machine. Next we have Feedbox. Feedbox, you consume 1, increase your soul by 1 card in the rest state, so you can, play a soul a little bit quicker. If there were 10 or more souls before increasing, choose 2 souls and stand them. So kind of using you're playing this kind of for free, I guess, at that point. It's pretty decent very early on. Mid game though, it's not great, but it's all right. Again, if you are mixing colors, doing dual color decks. I'm not 100% sure if I would play this. Next we have Ranch. Get either 3 wood or 3 ingredients or fruit, whatever, and you draw a card assigning 1 pal. This is very strong. I would say this is a staple in the deck. I would probably max this out at 4. No pals beyond sign. You assign 1 pal. The pal assigned to this card gets the skill here, and that is a continuous taunt effect. So you can assign one of your bigger guys or even one of your smaller guys to be a taunter, essentially being kind of your main blocker to help defend your other pals. Yeah, I don't know if I would play this one specifically for 5-drop. I feel like there are better cards to play. Next we have Berry Plantation. You assign 1 pal, you get 3 fruit and draw 1 card, and you can rest your standing pal to assign it. Yeah, pretty decent. It's a 1-drop, so again, assigning one of your smaller guys to this, so you get that extra drop, works pretty well. Wouldn't say that it is, I would say it's, probably a 3 or 4 of in the deck. And then we have Campfire. Consume 2 fruit, assign 1 pal. You gain 1 life. Choose all of your pals and they get plus 1000 power until the end of the turn. That is pretty strong, especially towards the mid to late game, so that you can, push for a lot more damage. Push, if your opponent has some troublesome pals, attack over them and, try to go for that game there. That is all the structures in the green category. I would definitely say that out of all the colors, these might be the weakest in my opinion, but again, I could be wrong. After testing out the cards a little bit more, testing out some decks and their synergy, I might be wrong, but yeah, at the moment I do think that these are a little less impressive from the other colors. All right, let's look at some gears now. We have Dictois Headband. You rest this card, choose 1 pal, and it gets 200 power until the end of the turn. If his name is Dictois, you can get an extra material. So if you're combining this with like the red deck and make a green-red deck, I guess that works since there's some synergy there. But again, go back to the circumstantial plays. I don't think it's ideal to play this because you have more requirements to make it optimal other than just the souls that you're paying for it. Farming Hat. For 3 drops, you get rest this card, choose 1 pal, it gets 200 power until the end of the turn, and you get an extra bit of ingredients there. So this one is pretty solid. I would say it's maybe like a 3 of in the deck. And lastly, we have Refined Metal Spear. You rest this card, you choose 1 pal, and it gets 900 damage boost until the end of the turn, which a 6 drop is a little hefty, but I do think maybe running 1 or 2 of these is pretty decent, to make that push late game, like I said before, with some of the other bigger stuff that boosts your pal's attacks. I don't think it's necessary in the deck though. If I would say if it doesn't fit, don't worry about it. Playing it, it's not necessary in my opinion. If you can find room for it, maybe splash it in, but I'm kind of somewhere in the middle on that one. And then finally, for the event cards, we have Lily's Strategy. Choose one of the following. Choose all of your pals, and they get 1000 until the end of the turn. Pretty solid for a 3-drop. You can choose a structure or gear and put it into the graveyard. So one of your opponent's troublesome structures or gears, it's a very easy way to get rid of those. Increase your soul by 1 card and the rest state. Again, compared to some of the other previous strategies from the red and blue decks or red colors that we've seen so far, might be one of the weaker strategy cards, but could prove me wrong though. That extra 1000 power is very useful if you're going for a kind of a bigger beatdown strategy. But yeah, also getting rid of a troublesome structure or gear is pretty nice, especially the red deck that has like that machine gun that can do a lot of damage to your pals. It's an easy way to get rid of that. Found an Egg. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 pal from among them and add it to your hand, and shuffle the rest of the cards with the deck. If you don't choose a pal here, you get 3 ingredients. Definitely a 4 of in the deck. It's essentially you paying to either draw or get a lot of ingredients for some of the other effects, which either way, I think it is a win-win. This card is a 4 of in my opinion. Blessing of the Flower Spirit. You gain 1 life, draw 1 card for a 3-drop. It's pretty decent since, again, if you can pay 3 souls to draw a card normally, but I think that getting that extra life and kind of going through your deck in a easier way that way. If you, and especially as a filler card, I think that's very strong. And I would probably play at least 3 of those. And then finally we have Stone Blast. It's a quick effect. Choose 1 pal and it gets 500. So it's a cheap way to boost your pal. I don't know if I would play this personally. If you have room for it, definitely do so. But I don't think it's a necessary card in this green deck. So that's all the green cards for now. Let me know what you guys think. I might have been wrong about this color, but personally, I do think that when you mix it with some of the other colors, it's a very, very strong deck. I have lost to a green purple deck before. It was one of the harder matchups that I've had, but so a lot of the cards though I don't think are great, but the cards that are strong are very strong. So but yeah, we will tackle the next color here soon. The cards are releasing very, very soon. Very excited. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.